Before like definitely my consideration person right now for him for people like calling like the usual quarrel between like is going to bring childish like for him for people who or may who someone who like almost most of the time like basically act out in like a childish manner. For that effect for him to like right now even with like a serious face to follow to not even have like the move to like even tolerate the usual quarrel between each one and and even choose for him or people to follow child that really precisely due to that being how much extremely worried or him even to like the present times would be connecting to like precisely have that front hard to give like the appearance of certainly not to the impression. So like definitely my to the impression right now is that they really or him definitely would be saying the truth and would not be saying things out of that in a delusional manner as for like or in a being tea and sweet precisely after being captured by the monster when after passing through like the gates of like the world of all of the element of the time. It could be probably because of like my secondary impression that I'm sitting on to that like that gate to like the world of a might have like might definitely be like a fake gate to like fake gate kind of like for like thing it's definitely Urahara might have definitely created to totally trick Ichigo through definitely my personal memory. So like and that's simply because like of my personal impression that I'm sitting on those that definitely these three modes like Jaren, Karudo and Nobile that would definitely be created by Urahara. And Urahara might have precisely created them precisely after finding out about like Ace and stealing the Hobikyu and heading off to like the world of Earth. It's definitely my personal impression. So still thinking to my perspective on that, like these three modes might have definitely been created by Urahara with specified intent to like eventually trick it went to like getting them into enter into like eventually enter into like the actual world of war so that like Urahara could use it went through to eventually get them to like fight Jason and that way bring back like the whole news to like the human world. It's definitely my personal understanding that I'm thinking about. So like precisely because like fundamentals in theory and those separation definitely Urahara would be like the master of these three modes. So, and precisely because of like it's going through being extremely important for Urahara. And those different that would be the reason for like it's going through being extremely valuable and important to like these three modes as well. Precisely because like of my personal impression that I'm sitting on is that precisely because of like Urahara, according to my personal theory, being like precisely Urahara that might have definitely created these three modes. Like definitely these three modes might definitely fear Urahara. Since like Urahara, they are would be like their creator, like Urahara would also have like the power to like destroy them as well. Uh, would be one thing that they would be fearful about. Or like Urahara might have put such a fake kind of like threat to like totally scare these three more souls into like totally working for loyally for Urahara. It's also like a positive that I'm considering. Even while my according to my personal I'm president sitting on this definitely that like basically back during like the whole actual mode or experimentations like being done during like the back in like the Soul Society, Urahara might have definitely been part of like the research, head of like the research team and might have been like leading that whole experience. But like I'm also very much like the order to like terminate and exterminate all those monsters was issued by either it might be either from like the Center for Politics or it might have been Game Process that might have issued that. At that point, I'm definitely putting my person to remember definitely that like Urahara might have definitely had like his own ethics and it might have definitely sound like a good sound that example bring on Saka back then might have totally opposed then might have been against that order. It's definitely my personal preference. So it's strictly because of the situation definitely my personal preference that like it would be just like I'm not different that should only possibly be like a fake threat put up by Sora towards like the three also saying that like if the three monsters doesn't obey and Urahara doesn't work for and do exactly as like Urahara wants, then Urahara would like terminate the three of them. So like this might be the preferred reason for like since like is going through are extremely important for Urahara to eventually get in Urahara's question like get back to that to since like so since like it went through or extremely important to Urahara, who's like the master of these three mortals that will be the preparation for like for human it's going to being extremely important for these three modules as well and hence why like these three modules have until even until this point have not even sub is going through at all. This definitely my brain and this might be the preparation for like the three modules for capturing what he may precisely actually like serving or he may see as well as free is also definitely my personal theory and question. Also, like my secondary impression right now that I'm splitting onto is that basically Yoruichi as well as like Sultan precisely rushing in towards like the top at like the school building precisely when like the time and that time precisely being like coincidentally precisely being like precisely during the time like when Ichigo and Cruz like game time was like about to run out and basically it was time for like Ichigo to like say the answer as to like to like the fate among them. Like I'm considering it's definitely might have definitely not been a coincidence and like I'm considering like Urahara as well as like so if one rushing to like the top of like, the building might have been precisely to create that whole smoke smoke cloud. It's definitely my consider impression and also like it might have and that smoke cloud would be what the grants all these molecules that exceptional high speed and abilities to be able to like even dodge like someone like Ichigo dodge that attack at someone of like, the levels of strength of that Ichigo. It's definitely my consider impression. Like it would be like a smoke cloud crowd covering that whole building, whole building which like Ichigo and Crow might have failed to see. That might be like this that snow cloud will be granting that power to these nodes so to be able to like dodge even Ichigo and Crow's like attacks and everything. It's definitely my position to be temporarily granting that power to like the snow cloud when they are in that proximity of that dark cloud. It's definitely my position. So and like one other precise intent behind like Yoruichi as well as like so if one even showing up at that precise exact time would also be like maybe like you already might not only expected that basically Ichigo and Kuro might answer get their answer on so that like expectations like the Montrose had already I think like the ring had already revealed that basically if like Ichigo and Kuro face that game basically like in exchange for like not disappearing like the entirety of like the uh, that if like it was like schoolmates like in permanently instead of to in exchange like it go and to having to do something and that something might have actually been for like in exchange for like saving like then if it go and through like schoolmate like if you go and through having to like enter into like this gates leading to like the world of Boros. And at that might have been like the plan of like these three nodes also as well as Urahara and all of them. It's definitely my presentation. That way to get the Julian through into like that gates leading to like the world of Boros. And that time it would be like not a fake gate leading to like the world of Boros, but like it might be an actual gate leading to like the actual world of Boros. It's definitely my presentation. So that way to try and to open up with the actual gates like I'm going to bring your of so I want as well, like their presence as well, it might be necessary. So like they might have to do something as well. It's definitely steadily do something as well to be able to like open up like, the portal leading to like the actual gate leading to like the word of all. It's definitely my consideration. So that may be the precise reason for like Yoruichi as well as like so precisely showing us precisely during that exact time when Ichigo and Po got supposed to give the answer to among them is like great. It's definitely my consideration. So like what might have totally destroyed all of their hopes and expectations of like Yoruichi and like the most so then Urahara might have been precisely Ichigo actually revealing and saying like the right answer with like Ichigo being able to like detect Chad as being like the face. That's definitely my personal impression. So interesting, like definitely my personal impression right now. That is the right now it's there, which is exactly right. About like what he predicts and things that basically the temporary closing of like the all passageways to like the whole society might be like probably due to like the plan of like geology and okay like it's definitely not good impression. So like I'm considering like maybe my consider impression right now that maybe like okay like will be part of like the entire plan between like Urahara and Yoruichi and okay like they would also be collectively planning to like without much great delay to like trick Ichigo and grow into like getting them into like getting them trapped into like the golden forest and that way they will get them to fight Aizen and defeat Aizen and basically that way get back the OG2. Simply my business and so like I'm considering maybe Ukitake as well by now would be like well I'm fully aware of like the OG2 and definitely my positive impression. So and I'm considering maybe just maybe like for like Ukitake being like maybe like the brother of Rasa. So also like a remote kind of like a possible that I'm considering. So like I'm considering like literally the fact that it was really Ukitake that had given even given like Ichigo the precise substitute soul reaper path. Using with this like Ichigo would be able to like become soul reaper whenever Ichigo wants. And the fact that like Ukitake even gave that to Ichigo precisely when considering like precisely due to that through that training that Urahara has given to Ichigo before for Ichigo to like be able to like turn into a sword reaper. That's the journey that Urahara gave like Ichigo before Ichigo left for like sword fight. And the different through that training like Ichigo might have definitely gain the power to like turn sword reaper whenever Ichigo wants. So like I'm considering definitely Ukitake would be in on this plan and definitely connected to like Yoruichi and Urahara and all that. But like Ukitake while giving this like precise particular sword reaper task to Ichigo like Ukitake might be well fully aware that they believe that like Ichigo is actually already capable of being turning into sword reaper whenever Ichigo wants. It's definitely my question. Yet like the reason for like Ukitake giving like that sword reaper task to like Ichigo maybe totally according to like the plan. It's definitely my personal impression. Like according to the plan, like precisely once like Ethan, I'm still thinking in my personal impression that like precisely once Ethan stole like the holy tools from Rukia and left for like the world of Horus. At that point, I'm just thinking himself like Yoruichi might have secretly phoned and told Urahara about like the happenings and about the updates that currently the holy tools with Ethan and Ethan is in like the world of Horus. So like I'm just wondering at that point itself, like I'm whispering that Urahara might have began the strategy. And as part of the strategy, Urahara might have straight away started with like creation of like the three more swords, like Liren, Garudo, and Nova. It's definitely went to the and that's for like Urahara's plan, like Urahara might have secretly formed Tikitake as well. And basically, might have told Tikitake to like especially give this exact soul reaper path to like Ichigo and to do so in like a casual and non-suspicious manner. So, like, and I was bringing Ichigo even accepting that substance over fast from like again might be precisely due to like maybe due to like Ichigo showing that respect towards like Ukitake and with like Ukitake saying that it's like a tradition to give like the substance over the past. So this all these due to that reason definitely that Ichigo might have even accepted that substance over the past from Ukitake precisely even while Ichigo even at during that time might have been definitely been able to like turn into Soul Reaper whenever Ichigo wants already. It's definitely my personal impression. So, the intent behind Okatake giving like the soul to Papa to like Chigo might be precisely should basically because like even during then like Urahara might have Okatake might have been part of like the plan of Urahara and might have given that as a part of eventually like that thing like so that like that success of Papa would eventually become helpful from Ichigo and through eventually as they will be getting tricked into getting trapped into like the water forest and eventually once they will be fighting off against Aizen and Throw like basically Aizen and his army like at that point for that of his soldiers are part to come handy for it to and through would be the reason for like to get again back then uh, as like it's when were leaving like the society Ukitake even giving that sort of structure sort of about 50 go to be precisely but this intent is definitely my personal impression right now. And my personal reflects that the reason would be precisely because like maybe like I'm considering two positives. The reason could be two positives. One positive basically is that like maybe like that success order path might help it to go the next time it to go get that transformation and that transformation like into like it will transform into like part order and part follow like when that transformation happens, like since like the last time Ichigo had that transformation, precisely it was like the whole of farm that was like took control of Ichigo. Like I'm think maybe like Urahara wants basically for Ichigo to be able to like especially be able to control that precise transformation so that like Ichigo so that might be where like the importance of mental substitute for path might even come. It's definitely my personal intention. Where like while wearing like the substitute for path allows like the wearer to turn into so for whenever he wants. Like it would also have the possibly might have like the power where like the next time it's, that whole transformation of part hollow and part over part even happens to Ichigo at that point like only due to like wearing like the soul rich path like Ichigo might be able to like have control over like just like not only his like soul powers but also have control over all of powers as well. So like to like allow Ichigo to be in like full control the next time to go makes that passport or passport transformation might be like the precise intent behind like giving like the substitute survey for passport to go. It's only 1% that end of the things. And this is like the highly likely percentage that end of the thing. 29% remember that. And like the least likely possibility is definitely that like maybe for a Harayan team might have or like Yoruichi might have totally figured that basically that Ishida has totally lost with like 20 power. So that might be something that Yoruichi might have been able to sense especially from like that like Ishida had lost his like 20 power. Like that might be something that maybe like Yoruichi might have been able to send from Ishida after the next time like after like Ishida's fight against like Mayuri that once like Ishida has lost his like 20 power like after that, like the next time Yoruichi, when he saw, when she saw like Shikshida, like at that point itself, like Yoruichi might have been able to sense that Shikshida has lost his like 20 power. So like maybe like the remote possibility and the thing maybe like the intent behind like even the substitute folder for casting like Ichigo might be and giving it precisely not to Ishida but to Ichigo might be precisely to make things like as non-suspicious as possible. Definitely my consideration. So that like according to like the original have a plan like basically eventually want like Ichigo and through getting trapped along with like Ishida would be getting trapped into like the world of all of like which would be what like Urahara and team would be like planning. So at that point like for Ishida to be able to like only contribute to and help Ichigo and throw out in their whole once like eventually they would be like fighting off against Aizen and Kucha army for like Ishida to be able to like fight and play his role and help Ichigo and throw out like might be the reason for like this like giving this soldier to Ichigo sort of a pass to like Ichigo so that like I'm considering like Urahara might be totally betting on like that Ichigo giving that to soldier pass eventually to Ishida once like it's only finding out about patient Shida having lost all of his like 20 power. So that like maybe if like Shida just were like the substitute over for class like at that point I was thinking Shida might shift from a Quincy like even though Shida has lost all of 20 powers like Shida might be instantly be able to turn into like the Soul Reaper just by wearing like the substitute for Soul Reaper pass. It's like maybe kind of like a remote possibility advantage. So maybe it would be with this precise intent and intent in like the mind of Urahara that maybe like Urahara might have secretly come contacted and communicated with like Kitake and hence maybe by the reason why like Kitake giving that to people is like another remote kind of possibility of like my personal theory and prediction. So like definitely the interaction right now that's for like Matsumoto skipping work and running into Omeda. Like I'm probably maybe like Matsumoto didn't just like ran into Omeda. Like maybe Matsumoto might have consciously skipped work just to meet Omeda. It's definitely also my question. And so also according to that theory, I'm personally also putting that Matsumoto might have skipped work. No, maybe not due to like Matsumoto like feeling lazy and not wanting to work and hence like skipping work. Maybe it might have to do with like maybe Matsumoto secretly having a crush on the Omeda character would be like maybe Matsumoto secretly has a crush on him and hence wanted to like talk to him. Or like I'm considering maybe Matsumoto might be secretly in relationship with like Omeda. And hence why like Matsumoto might have always skip work just to like talk to him. That's also like a possibility that I'm also like, looking to emotion. Like name of the emotion right now is that basically unlike the photo games that basically it's the pre-models have opened up for like image like chat and Orkime had been like initially trapped in like basically right now with like the current photo games being like so extremely huge, superiorly huge. Like I'm considering definitely the current huge follow gates and the current game of like scoring that huge follow gate within 30 minutes, like basically that huge follow, extremely huge follow gate would be like the actual original gate that leads to like the actual world of follow. So definitely my personal remedy. It would be like unlike before, like while my personal remedy is that like while the previous follow gates were all fake, the current extremely huge follow gates would be like the real deal, the actual gates to like the world of follows. Definitely my personal and I'm considering it might have been created, firstly created by Urahara secretly in such a manner that basically even like sending out spiritual energy and toward attack with like that contains like spiritual energy, like attacking using those attacks on that separately on that process huge follow gates like basically when that follow gates make contact with like crystal energy attacks like at that point I'm also bringing like this says Urahara might have created those this follow gate in such a manner that like it would like throw would like drag the person who's like attacking that says giant hollow gate into within into that hollow gate, especially my building dimension. Like this huge hollow gate might have such a property, might have been created in such a manner by Urahara, especially my building dimension with like the process and soul intent to like precisely that way get is to go and through to like get drawn, dragged into that actual person hollow gate and that way for it to go and through to like get trapped in like the world of hollow and basically so that like they would like Urahara would be still thinking that basically that way that Ichigo and Crow would be like eventually like ending up like fighting Ethan and basically getting him back like the whole video would be like this would be like the plan of Urahara, especially my personal impression. So my personal theory impression right now with also like Ichigo like totally carelessly leaving his like the guy behind and running away. I'm preferring this would be like this would totally cost like Ichigo a lot, especially the scenario in the scenario that I'm different. Especially because like I'm different right now. So like Ichigo and through running away from like that giant hollow gate, like I'm different. Uh, one of like the most goals would be like right then itself like would be like showing up in front of like Ichigo's like the guy lying on the floor and basically I'm going to bring one of like the most goals like taking that big guy and like taking that big guy into like maybe like throwing that big guy of Ichigo into like the hollow gates is like an eventual possible scenario that I'm considering. So that like Ichigo would have no other choice but to like enter into like that giant gate. It's like the eventual scenario that I'm considering. So like I'm considering that possibly only revealed towards the end, definitely my consideration. Even though Ichigo and Crow right now are running away from like that giant hollow gate, like I'm so like definitely my consideration right now. I for like Ichigo and Crow like totally quickly running away from like the giant hollow gate. Uh, while Ichigo even leaving behind just like the guy. I'm considering it should be precisely due to like Ichigo and Crow deciding to like straight away play that that latest game as well to precisely destroy like the giant hollow gate within 30 minutes. It'd be precisely like I'm considering especially this is like a game from like the monsters, like I'm considering it's one pro maybe feeling like well I'm fully confident that basically this won't be like destroying this like even though they have 30 minutes to like destroy that giant hollow gate, like it's simply not going to be easy. So like I'm considering maybe like it will might be by considering that maybe it's go and through like for them to like basically for them like their powers and attacks might be the strongest when launched from a remote distance. Definitely my percent impression. So spiritual energy attacks and powers might be like strongest for it going through when it they are like prepared and launched from a distance. Definitely my percent impression than when used close by nearby at a close range distance. Especially my perspective. Maybe this might be the reason for like it's going through like basically going leaving behind his guy and like probably quickly trying to like run away from like the giant hollow gate. So they to precisely stop at a distance and stop at the like at the set things and then basically from there to like give their absolute everything into like their ultimate attack and to launch that attack precisely at that giant hollow gate and hoping to basically that way be able to like destroy it within 30 minutes. Definitely my personal opinion. But like the scenario that I was putting is for like that like follow gates. And I was putting like the scenario to be like this week Ichigo, Renji, as well as like Orihime would be charging up their powers and would be like launching their ultimate attack from a distance. While considering maybe at that point for Ishida as well along with them like totally was probably trying to bring out his like 20 powers, but it's simply not happening. So like at that point I'm putting uh Ichigo and Crew like basically sending out their and Ichigo and Crew only realizing about like Ishida having lost his like 20 powers only at that point is also like the scenario that I'm looking and I'm looking at that point still like Ichigo Torikime and Renji deciding to like send out their full strength and basically so I'm considering initially I'm considering it would be like the Orihime that considering would be like sending out her ultimate power and considering Renji as well will be like sending out his ultimate power as well. It's like and directed towards the hollow gates. It's definitely my personal preference. So like I'm considering that way, like it will be I'm considering it will be first the first attack to like make contact with like the giant hollow gates to be precisely or him as well as Renji's attack. So like But that like the moment their attack would be making contact at that point itself, I'm just think then both like Renji as well as Orihime quickly being pulled into like the giant hollow gate. It's like the scenario that I'm picturing. That way, like Renji as well as Orihime passing through and entering like the giant hollow gates and getting trapped there. It's like the scenario that I was referring. And at that point, I was referring like Jiren most likely showing up out of like from around like the giant hollow gates and like supposedly Jiren like taking in like the guy of Ichigo is definitely my person to remember. So like at that point, Ichigo and Ishida would be at a distance from like the giant hollow gates. So like they would be shockingly fighting like Jiren totally, while Ichigo would be preparing his like ultimate attack at like giant hollow gates and considering the scenario to be like Jiren totally could be showing up and taking Ichigo's like Gigai and throwing that Gigai of Ichigo into that giant hollow gates. And then about the like and at that point, I was only for Liren to like basically throw like Ichigo's Gigai into the hollow gate, and then Liren totally laughing at Ichigo, and Ishida would be like the only two people remaining. And I was trying Liren totally telling Ichigo and Ishida that basically you would have to like basically ensure to like basically destroy this like giant hollow gate within like the 30 minutes for Ichigo and Ishida to get not only their friends back, but for Ichigo to also get his legacy guy as well back. It's like would be like along the way I'm considering Darren at that point laughing and telling to like Ichigo and Ishida at that point like the scenario that I'm considering. So like at that point I'm considering Ichigo totally thinking along the lines of like basically maybe Chad maybe like Renji as well as or may getting pulled into and dragged into like the hollow gates. Maybe it might be due to like their powers not being strong enough to like destroy like the hollow gate. So like at that point, I'm considering Ichigo totally bringing out his like Bankai powers and like giving it to like absolute full current full strength into a final ultimate attack director, remote attack director, launch and director straight towards like exercise hollow gates. And I'm considering that attack to be extremely intense, but still even that attack being absorbed by that hollow gate and Ichigo as well totally getting dragged and pulled into like that giant hollow gates. It's like the scenario that I'm resisting. And at that point, it will be all eaten out by himself. Remaining of like the scenario that I'm resisting. So like at that point, I'm resisting Ishida totally. Maybe they're asking like Ishida, as like, what are you going to do now? Like basically, you and at that point, only just a few minutes left. Only a few minutes would be even remaining for Ishida as per the game to like destroy like that giant hollow gate. So like at that point, I was supporting Ishida totally without even responding back or saying a single word. Like I was supporting Ishida straight away, walking towards like that giant hollow gates and entering that giant hollow gate, like the scenario that I'm supporting. And that would be how I'm supporting that everyone would be getting trapped into like that giant hollow gate. So like killing the scenario that I'm supporting. And after Ishida would be entering, I'm supporting maybe like Yoruichi as well as like Soipon showing up out of like hiding, like basically them showing up, and considering Urahara as well showing up, and I'm considering like maybe along with them Chad as well might be present. It's also like a possibility that I'm considering maybe like Urahara might have secretly talked to like Chad and might have totally convinced Chad as to like the extreme importance of basically getting the whole video back from Asians that I'm considering maybe like along with Urahara Chad being present at that point and like the collective of them like totally at that point like basically together like walking into and entering into like the follow gates and right before entering into like the follow gates like basically Urahara telling thanks and like to like the three more souls like Liren, Karudo and Nova like basically thanks for you doing a great job or like such along the lines like basically Urahara telling them and Urahara as well entering into collectively them all like basically entering into that for giant follow gates and with that like the giant follow gates disappearing is like the scenario that I'm looking at. So like I'm maybe also predicting like the possibility of like at that point like before like the giant follow gates would be closing like I'm considering maybe like Liren as well as like Nova as well as Karuba as well maybe like deciding to like end not deciding but like maybe definitely maybe being like as per like the orders of Urahara like this with them to basically eventually join like Ichigo and Pro in the but in and enter into like the world of follows and through the gates and basically to eventually form like their whole army of teams to basically eventually fight and bring down Ace. And so like maybe that also being a positive like a scenario that I'm so like once like or around be telling like appreciating like the three mortals at that point, like along with like Urahara, the three mortals that when entering into that giant hollow gates and that like the giant hollow gates like closing and disappearing. It's like the eventual possible scenario that I'm talking about and my person to the impression. Like definitely my person to the impression right now with like your agent so it's not so diligently working and they're even sending that and that's for like that precise ratio that was found on like the purple cloth. Like I'm considering like of course my person to the impression that like the purple cloth might have definitely been like the shop that belongs to Chad. It's definitely my person to the impression. So like I'm considering like Yoruichi, like what Yoruichi and like Qualcomm will be collectively are running all the time and suspect for will be most likely uh, to find any sort of data connecting to this like say remote or definitely my company. So like definitely my company right now is that like Yoruichi would be completely in the dark, like would be having absolutely no idea as for like the secret plan of like Urahara is definitely my company. Definitely these three motors might have definitely been created by Urahara. And my things would be currently everything that's going on right now would be all part of like Urahara secret master plan to sell traffic to go and through in like the world of and that way eventually for like Urahara to get to go to fight Jason and that way get back like the whole it was definitely my reference that was flipping on to but like I'm considering this plan might be something might have been something that like even Urahara might have felt that it would Yoruichi were to like find out about this like secret plan to like potentially trap into going through into like the world of Holo. Then like I'm considering maybe like even Urahara might have doubted that like basically if like Yoruichi would be standing by and supporting like Urahara in this like secret plan to like trap it to going through into like the world of Holo to get the whole use definitely my person damage. So like maybe it might be the reason for like Urahara broadly leaving to your even Yoruichi Urahara wait for an Yoruichi in like the is definitely what might have happened is definitely my person damage. So like I'm different so like Yoruichi might even to the present might have absolutely no idea at all as for like who these three mysterious figures that like basically bothering it going through with the games and everything like and all that and you would be like Yoruichi would be genuinely and desperately trying to find out about like these three mortals especially my cousin Remus. So like I'm remembering precisely even the point where like Yoruichi as well as along with like Soipon uh, had basically like ran towards like the school building like about putting that might have been due to like maybe about putting that might have been maybe like Yoruchi at that point like Yoruchi and Toypon might have seen something that Ichigo and the remaining of the Ichigo's friends who were inside that school building at that point weren't able to see and that might have been precisely one of these most also among like I'm about to bring it would be either Nova or like and those it might have definitely been Nova that might have already abducted Chad from that school building as they were like uh, running towards like right before like they were that Citizen Pro had found Satsuki missing like basically as ran towards that school building like campus bring like at that point might have been when like Chad might have been like the first person that was like the slowest and I'm also bring so like Chad's might have been like running the farthest behind. So like at that point might have been when precisely Nova might have striked and like Nova might have precisely abducted Chad and I'm also bring like what Nova and the precisely when with like Gorochi as well as like Soipon precisely Yorochi even telling Soipon to like show up to like the world of humans like basically it might have definitely been to like definitely collecting of the rebels that like in Europe, even treating like Kentucky itself and basically even closing temporarily closing like sites and all that might have been definitely Europe genuinely like wanting to like find out exactly like it's going through as to like what these like free mortals are even attempting and all that. It's definitely my concern to the emperors and collect their data and like to send it to like the process for society to analyze it and figure all that out like as to like what does like what even are these modules and with like how who created them and all that to like find out all about this like basically might be like there's a reason maybe I'm monitoring for like Yoruchi and Soyphone like Yoruchi when calling Soyphone into like the world of humans and Yoruchi and Soyphone when they had basically ran towards like the school building like at that point what Yoruchi and Soyphone might have first of all Yoruchi and Soyphone might have already news about like basically that like that since like Ichigo had basically revealed to like even earlier to like Yoruichi in like Urahara stop And I'm assuming at that point, definitely Yoruichi might have heard as well, along with like Urahara, Yoruichi as well might have heard like the whole issue that Ichigo and Ko were facing with like the whole with, like these three mysterious characters and like their games and everything. So like at that point, I'm assuming Yoruichi might have been secretly trailing Ichigo and Ko, and so like I'm assuming maybe Yoruichi might have by then like realized that basically like might have maybe even secretly spied and even seen like these three mortals appearing in front of like the school and basically giving like the next game to like it went through. Okay, so like definitely was revolutions that like maybe back when like Ichigo was like playing the game to find out who among them is like the fake, like basically back when that game was played out at school, like I'm remembering at that point I was remembering Ichigo had Ichigo might have totally caught like Urahara to basically question about like if it was the guy being found in like the school premises, the climate of the premises. So like Ichigo might have actually called for Hara and like Ichigo, even though Ichigo might have not been able to like even though no absolutely no one might have been present in like that Urahara shop at that place point and no one might have picked that call like and but still Ichigo might have totally left a message asking for Hara about like this his guy that he left at like Urahara's place as well as like Renji's Gigai, which like considering like Renji might have definitely left his Gigai precisely definitely also at like Urahara's place. So like that's like why it was present in like the school premises like I'm considering that might have been definitely something that like Ichigo might have asked as like a message that Ichigo might have left. It's definitely was remember. So like I'm considering then Yoruichi might have been the precise person who might have seen this message. So like at that point I'm considering it might be at that point that Yoruichi might have felt that basically, and Ichigo in that message might have also revealed about the schemes happening in like the school right now as well by these remote. So like I'm considering at that point like Urahara maybe like at that point might have set off along with like Soifon uh, not Urahara, but Yoruichi might have set off at that point along with like Soifon to like the school with like the precise intent to like precisely try to like either capture or collect data connecting to these three monsters. Definitely my first impression. So like I was remembering Yoruichi when Yoruichi might have showed up to the school at that point, like what Yoruichi might have seen might have been precisely the mortal Nova precisely capturing chat, and basically at that point Nova might have been present directly on top of, in the very top of like that school building is definitely my opinion. That might have been what like precisely Yoruichi as well as like Soifon might have seen when they might have they had like they might have showed up to like the school of Ichigo, especially my personal opinion. This might be the precise reason for like Yoruichi as well as Soifon totally rushing in within like the premises of like Ichigo school. It's definitely my personal opinion. They might have been like Soifon and Yoruichi might have been totally running to like capture that precise Mortal Nova. It's definitely my personal impression. So and I'm considering like even right now like basically Soifon as well as like Yoruichi totally running and then even finding that precise purple shot of chat like basically this might have been something like they might have been continuously running and try to catch up like that Nova Monster, especially my personal emotion. So if my personal emotion said like even though according to my personal like Yoruichi as well as like Soifon might have been heavily chasing after like Nova who might have affected Chad at that point. But I was thinking like what might happen would be like exactly like how Liren I think was able to like so easily make like the uh, students like disappear like I'm thinking like using that very same technique like I'm thinking technique or device like even Nova might have which instantly made got of chat as well to like disappear certainly was interesting. So and like Nova might have totally they might Nova might have totally done the whole face manipulation to like precisely uh, to make child disappear. It's definitely went of information. So that might have been what might have happened is definitely went of so like that way maybe like Nova might have even tricks like Yoruichi people like Yoruichi as well as like so it is also like what might have happened is also definitely members of Venus. So like I'm different then without much delay like Nova might have reappeared and basically might have quickly appeared along with like Lyra as well as like Carvados. Definitely what might have happened is definitely members of Venus. So like then I'm different like Yoruichi might be like genuine about like finding about not knowing like anything about these three mortals and was genuine about like wanting to like find out what about like these three mortals. Definitely my personal reaction. So about even after that, like about is like Yoruichi as well as Soikon might have been secretly keeping behind, secretly following like Ichiban through. Definitely, my personal preference. That might have been what might they might have done precisely because like since like this whole games, all these games were precisely being presented and given to like Ichiban through and preferring. Especially Yorite might have realized that basically if they if Europe steadily follows it went through around with like toy point, they would be like eventually be able to like precisely they would like eventually totally run into these three more goals again. So like I'm preparing with that like with that intent like I'm preparing like European toy point might have been secretly following it went through when like I'm preparing maybe like just like when like say might have like and I'm preparing maybe like soy phone and especially since like Europe is in like if friends with like Urahara, maybe I'm just bring Yoriki might have like some sort of a device that can like sense reishi. So definitely my person brain vision and detects a reishi substances or something is definitely my person brain. So like maybe using that device like I'm looking at that point Yoriki as well as Soikon while they might have been secretly observing and following it even though at that point like they might have or like this device might have especially sense like reishi coming from a certain direction. So like I'm just referring and and I'm also bringing like maybe like the ratio of child like maybe like Dorothy might have been able to like sense that it was like the ratio of child so the name of the so like I'm also bringing at that point Dorothy as well as Toyfon might have searched around in that area and might have precisely that way found this like precise birth of child sort of jar like basically lying on the ground just containing the reishi and this might be like the exact reishi might be what like your regime might have been given up certainly might have remembered especially because of like your regime might have realized that it's not at all easy at all it would be like almost impossible for them to like actually capture like these three modes so like I'm just referring through reishi like at least through the reishi like they will be able to like your regime will be able to like send the data into the reishi to like the source reishi basically through that data they would have like an idea of like what actually even these modes or actually are. And so like so that like that way like your team might be able to like figure out like as to like what exactly are they and how they were created and who created them and what might be like their actual goal and all that. It's definitely my personal image. So this might have been what might have happened. It's definitely my personal image. So like right now with like the data of the ratio data that being sent to like the sources item, this would be like the precise ratio data of like most likely Nova, while Nova might have affected SAT, like that ratio that might have been that considering it would be like a scriptural energy percent like uh it might be what ratio might be is also my percentage temperature. So like I'm considering that ratio percent that like sends to precisely the laboratory kind of like plate in like the results right I'm considering like the eventual results like once like the results will be getting found out in like the society at that point I'm considering you're already getting like the biggest shock with like that data most likely that result that would be like getting revealed and considering like that results would have like a lot of significance to your because like that research would be like an instant revelation for precisely Yoruichi that basically like that Urahara like the person who had created these three modes. So it's definitely my personal opinion. That research would be like a clear evidence to Urahara's connection with these three modes and the creation behind these three modes. So this definitely and the eventual scenario that I'm going to looking and my personal opinion like the name of the introduction right now that's for like and they're pulling out like Urahara's hand like and this is like might have to do with like maybe Urahara having like pulled out like some sort of like an fake run in front of like Yoruichi and then the to make it appear as if like even Urahara has been like caught and captured by the like mysterious like three characters like these three mortals and they believe that way like Urahara as well like Urahara might have probably around like that absolute fake act as if like him as well getting dragged into like the water followed by these three mortals. This like might have been precisely this like that fake act Urahara precisely most likely having intended to have Yoruichi Urahara's like great friend Yoruichi witness so that like that way to like eventually for eventually for like Urahara to like eventually trick and trap Yoruichi as well along with like it went through into like this actual world of follow might be what Urahara might have possibly done with also might be very emergent and hence why like may the currently like Urahara had being in like their hands. It's definitely also my personal impression right now. My personal impression is like maybe it might have been such a fake drama that Urahara might have totally put to like basically played to like the trick Yoruichi, which like Yoruichi might have totally bought and actually might have like been extremely worried for like Yoruichi's just friend like Urahara that like I'm considering it might be from that point on that I'm considering like Yoruichi might have straight away decide to like not let these three skills characters like the issues and the game and all of them like the do not let that issue slide anymore like the very point where Yoruichi might have decided to like take that extremely seriously and chase after them and trying to like find out who they are. It might have been like Yoruichi might have changed to that decision and might have actually started acting on it, especially the moment like Urahara might have put on his fake act and might have might have made like your witness like him getting dragged into like that gate leading to like the border follow and basically at that point like Yoruichi might have been extremely worried and straight away Yoruichi might have started like doing his thing and very just straight away might have contacted Ukitake and might have told Ukitake to like precisely to open the gates and basically to close the gates and like ring Zoicon and all that like precisely Yoruichi might have started doing all that from that point on after like seeing your best friend like Urahara totally get interact into that word of follows through the game. This is definitely my passenger introduction. So like the feeling of the introduction right now has for like basically already the game point between like support game matches point between like Ichigo and Pro versus like Liren and her team like basically a team of like Nova and Taruto already having been 2-2 a tie at like 2-2 when precisely like it's going through had basically precisely failed like I think the fifth game where like to basically destroy that giant gate to left the world of horror within 30 minutes. Even though it's went through had failed that game and so that since like the scores were settled with that it's went through losing that game with like the scores being like 3-2. But since like Michael Cincinnati mentioned that since that game had basically might have really proven that basically that Liren and her team had basically defeated like Ichigo and Kurosama like in the whole game match of the like the game points being like 3-2. But the think still like for Liren and team to like set up a bonus round game once again and giving it Ichigo and so even more chance to like save Chad. But the it would be precisely due to that place where like Ichigo and Crow had gotten dragged into after getting dragged into that extremely giant and huge gate into like the water source that like the place there is when Crow had landed on precisely being definitely like an alternate dimensional space. Definitely my boundary impression. So that exactly I'm considering so like my personal impressions that basically Sugar might have definitely been right about like his love and that basically that such place the certain place where like it's going through has potentially landed after potentially being tracked through that giant gate like the word that follows that being precisely like a alternate dimension space definitely my that punch out like that now or that prediction of which it would be perfectly and exactly right. It's definitely the remission. And my personal reference is that like it still could be still going accordingly to simply Urahara and Urahara alone. That fifth plan alone is definitely my top favorite. Fifth plan in the, about which like not even fifth best friend Yoruichi would even be aware about. It's definitely my top favorite. And one thing it would be perfect only due to like Urahara even fearing that like tricking and trapping Ichigo and crew into like a dangerous place like the word for just to get back the hook to like basically that strategy of Urahara Ramsam might have definitely felt that basically if like Yoruichi even finds out about it like even Yoruichi might stand against Urahara might be something that Urahara might be even afraid of. It's also like about that I'm different. So maybe it might be like due to that reason, like Urahara probably even keeping that information even hidden from Yoruichi as well. It's also particularly my considering that I'm sitting also. So like basically, especially with the first reason I'm considering fitting even that alternate dimension space that you go and so had landed into. This is definitely my consideration. That place, like I'm also bring like unlike traveling into like the soul society from like the human world, or like uh, where like Urahara had just or like Yoruichi had just created like a simple bottle leading from like the human world to like the South Society and considering things would be extremely different when it comes to like traveling from like the human world to like the world to like the actual world of all of the like for that the process would be like might be a lot more difficult. So definitely my personal opinion and like a direct traffic way from like the human world to like the world of follow which like most likely would be even though which would be most likely would be through how like follows might be entering into like the world of the living. Um, I'm still my documentary impression that still for Urahara to like perfectly create that recreate such a direct pathway from like the human world to like the world of follows might have been impossible within such a short time even for Urahara. So basically, after like Urahara learning of like the news of like the Hodiku agent stealing the Hodiku and having left for like the world of politics, like living with the so like within that short time, like the only kind of like passageway that Urahara might have been able to like create from like the human world to like the world of politics might be supposedly through first like entering into this like alternate dimension like area and from there like considering some there like considering some sort of a portal might be able to be creatable like only from this like alternate dimensional place like a person for you might be able to be fairly creatable which will like lead a person to like the world of horror. It's definitely my favorite. So like first for that person to like come into like this like alternate dimensional space would be an actually necessary. It's definitely my favorite for uh, that person to be able to like make it to like more about it. Definitely my person privilege. And this might be the precise reason for like the bonus game. Even after like Liren and Sartin had basically perfectly and defeated like Ichigo and through seen in like the game round with like even like the previous game itself guaranteeing that victory for like Liren and Sartin. Still for them adding that extra bonus round would be like their like final touch in like that final attempt to like precisely and ensure the process traffic of like is going through into like the world of all which will be precisely with that intent that like right now like learning has given it going through that whole bonus round final bonus round to like save Chad. It's definitely my first dilemma. So like I'm also bring precisely through this like final bonus round I'm also bring definitely for it to go and through desperately struggling to like stop like Nova as well as like stop Nova as well as Charono. But like I'm considering like going to the streets is struggling. But like I'm considering into like alternate dimension space which might have definitely been created by Urahara. I'm considering especially exactly like how Yoruichi's like training place as well as Urahara's training place were like created using like some sort of like soul device that I think like maybe Urahara creation might be like this soul device kind of thing, which might have probably allow for like such a huge training space to be possible right under like Urahara shop. And it's definitely my best so like this alternate dimensional space as well would be like a similar kind of creation of Urahara. It's definitely using some sort of a soul device, definitely my best way of it. So I'm both different. So because of this, like Urahara might have created like this alternate dimensional space also in such a way that basically uh, that would be one other thing about alternate dimension space that basically more souls might be like this alternate dimension space would be like a space where like more souls would be like totally getting stronger and would be able to like get the upper hand. That's really my best remedy. So that I'm considering this might also be like the reason for right now even Carlo as well as like Nova being like so extremely currently so as well as Leon so currently being all of a sudden being so extremely or confident as to like let Nova as well as like Carlo fight each one where previously like mostly they were trying to like disappear and escape and not like to go and prove whenever they try to like fight that. It's a clear man person game to be precisely because like this alternate dimension space granting probably granting a lot of powers to like the mortals that may know the pyramid. So like this, through this fight, like I'm considering the top and the secret intent of like Liren and like the other two mortals would be to like like precisely like ensure to like bring and lure Ichigo and through this fight to like a specific area within like that alternate dimension space where like I'm considering the precise portal could be opened to like the which will directly leading to like the world of all of it. The feeling I was so like so that way through that fight like in between that fight to like precisely I'm considering like a portal all of a sudden to open up and for each one to like the pushed into that portal all of a sudden by Karuro as well as Nova while it was going to be trying to like fight Karuro and Nova. Like that's another kind of story. Another portal most likely opening up after that, like another portal most likely opening up right next to Chad as well. Certainly, into it like Chad as well, it would be like just into in that way like if you want like the entire crew would be like entering into through that portal would be like once got into that portal like composition they will be like automatically tracked into and basically that portal will be necessarily like, fixing into like the actual true world of all especially when we're generation. So this is like the scenario that I felt about the and where the future also, like right now, so we're only looking for like specific Tarodo Nova as well as learning as well, deciding like therefore the intent behind which like with which like Urahara might have created them. But the thing right now it won't be just to like basically trick each one through into like the mission they have been assigned by like Urahara might have not just been um might don't just be to like basically trick each one through into like getting them to enter into like the world of Hollow. Maybe like after getting tricking each one through into like entering making them enter and try to get trapped into like the world of Hollow. At that point like eventually like some Ethan would be planning on using each one through to like fight and get Ethan and get back the Holy Q. So in that journey like I'm preparing that Urahara might have even beforehand itself given the orders to like Naruto learn as well as Nobite to like aid Ichigo and Kuro. Eventually in that whole eventually as like Ichigo and Kuro would be like making their way to like which eventually as like Urahara as well would definitely be waiting on that other side in like the world of horror. And Urahara would be ready all ready to like put on his side of like a fake act in front of Ichigo and Kuro as if like Karuro, Nova and Darren had basically tricked Urahara into basically getting trapped into like the world of horror. Definitely also my experience. But like that way, once like Ichigo would be like, eventually getting trapped into like the world of horror and meeting up with like Urahara at that point for like eventually preparing for like maybe Urahara might have ordered Haruto and Nobody like secretly follow Ichigo through and like secretly eventually like provide aid and help to like Ichigo through within that world of follows as well. So that like Ichigo and Kuro will have be having like the absolute best chance of like eventually making it towards Acer and basically will be able to like eventually or undefeated and get back the whole game for like Urahara. It's like scenario for the Urahara's plan to get back the whole to be like a perfect success like basically Urahara might have given the orders to like the three mortals to like even for themselves as well once like it went through would be like getting trapped into like the actual world of horrors for themselves as well to like enter into like the actual world of horrors as well and eventually like give it their absolute everything and like helping to run through that eventually make it to Jason and basically to in the whole fight to like get back especially when the impression that I'm sitting on it. Yes, so like actually when the impression right now was like going through totally playing their like bonus round game within this like alternate within what would be possibly most likely the alternate dimension place and while on the other hand, Yoruichi as well as like Soifon are basically still searching for more clues, possibly more clues on in like the human world still. But the thing like so like because like Nova, Karudo as well as Darren are not even present right now, as well as Chad as well are in like the alternate dimension, while Yoruichi as well as Soifon are desperately searching for them in like the still in like the human world. Like I'm just the thing so like what Yoriki and Soifon might right now find would be, and I'm wondering about the precisely what exactly Yoriki might be still surfing frantically along with like Soifon, even while Karunoder and Nova and Chad are in like the alternate dimension place. Like I'm just trying to be precisely like Yoriki might be definitely having some sort of like a soul device which like Urahara, which might definitely be present in like Urahara's shop which either Urahara might have given to Yoruichi in an innocent manner, or like which might be something like Urahara might have been confident that the Yoruichi might totally use. Like a device that can totally sense like a foreign kind of like reishi or something. It's definitely might look very interesting. So that might be how like Yoruichi as well as Soifon might have been able to like find that precise picture of like chat and like the reishi serious reishi contained in it. Definitely might look very interesting. So like that way to like use that device against like Yoruichi to especially Yoruichi to that perfect spot where like Urahara would want Yoruichi to like eventually come to. It's definitely would be like Urahara plans definitely my premise. So like right now, precisely what exactly Yoruichi as well as Soipon would be finding right now on those different to this precisely Urahara. It's definitely my premise. Like in the middle of that night, like in that precise location that Yoruichi and Soipon is like that is the kind of like location that Yoruichi and Soipon is like totally quickly trying to just release up. Like I'm preparing they'll be right now finding Urahara. It's definitely not the premises. So like I'm preparing Urahara then to basically reveal to like Yoruichi maybe as like what exactly going on. But like I'm preparing Urahara totally tricking Yoruichi and telling this one lie that basically like as to like why I'm preparing like Urahara totally confessing to like Yoruichi that basically it was him like the reason behind like those three monsters and those three mysterious characters and if you go ahead to go through all these games like was all because of like Urahara. Urahara basically revealing that you're like the scenario that I'm going right now. And as to like why exactly like Urahara tricked all of them. Also like precisely because like I'm going to bring Urahara revealing to Yoriki that basically time is short like that basically isn't like that's only little time left until like isn't like basically activate and actually for the flicks about the whole video. And at that point, like fantastic episodes that the end of the human world will be destroyed. And I was still thinking of my person three evolution that like the world of follow like while that the human world as well as like the world whole society needs to like work in like a perfect balance like with like if like the human world is destroyed like the whole since like the human world and like the so society are dependent in terms of like a balance like situation like it's like dependent on each other with like the human world not being able to like exist within like without like the society and the whole society are being unable to like exist without like the human world. Even if like one of them is like destroyed, like the other will be automatically getting destroyed due to like that lost in like balance and everything. But like in the case of like, the world of Polo Campus, it will be in like a totally different dimension. The world of Polo creates is a thing that like I'm considering even if like the human worlds and human world as well as the whole society are destroyed, like still like the world of Polo would still remain unaffected by that and would be still able to like exist even with like the destruction of like the human world and like the destruction of the society. It's definitely my total impression. So like I'm considering Urahara basically, and Yoruichi might be well and fully aware. So like I'm considering Urahara basically telling this to Yoruichi that basically since like the world of Polo will be remaining unaffected and since like Jason has right now moved into like the world of Polo, uh, Ethan, if like at the moment he was like the cop with the whole he would just straight away showing up first to like the society and basically destroying like the entire different society and that way like the human world as well would be destroyed. But like the time is short and we have absolutely no other choice but to like make it as soon as possible to like the world follow. And precisely we need to like risk our lives and put our lives on our lines and basically give our everything into like and placing all our hopes on Ichigo and throws to basically stop being able to like stop Aizen and his forces before Aizen gets to like the whole issue. And in order to do that, like else like this world has absolutely no hope of survival. And basically along this like like Urahara basically confessing to like Yoruichi, and then I was bring Urahara to totally push Yoruichi into like basically feeling as if like Yoruichi has no other choice but to like team up with like Urahara and enter into like the world of Polo and help Ichigo out and throw out and basically to eventually for Ichigo and throw to fight Aizen and get back the positive like not to like give that extra push to like Yoruichi. I'm going to bring like Urahara also lines to like Yoruichi that will and I'm going to bring at that point Urahara even revealing that like those three modes were Urahara creation and all that like and at that point, I was putting Urahara also giving the line to Yoruichi precisely by saying that basically by now, definitely Ichigo and Throw have already those three mortals have already tricked Ichigo and Throw into like actually entering into like the world of Hollow. So like right now, Ichigo and Throw are already trapped into like the world of Hollow. And that way, like I'm considering like Urahara straight away saying that like even before such a scenario would be actually happening, it's definitely wouldn't be. And I'm considering Yoruichi only falling for that trap and Yoruichi genuinely believing that already so Ichigo and Throw have gotten trapped into like the world of Hollow. So like I'm considering Yoruichi especially after having spent so much time with like Ichigo and Throw definitely Yoruichi as well would definitely have like would be also caring for like the well-being of this going through as well. Definitely my personal parents. There definitely might have formed a bond between like Yoruichi and Ichigo and through their long journey to like say Ruki and all that. Definitely my personal review. So that like with like Urahara even considering Urahara revealing this lie that with Bleach and Proof have already been trapped into like the world of Horus. So like that giving that final push to like Yoruichi to like face the resistance to like basically go along with like go along with like Urahara. So basically to like the world of Horus to basically help each one throughout. Because like your would be felt well and fully aware that basically like it's going to all by themselves won't be able to like even survive because like in like the world of all because like even while it was like was strong still like considering definitely Urahara as well as Yoriti might have spent yeah, like might have traveled in like the world of all might have gone to and traveled in like the world of all in like that and definitely my considering they might know like both Yoruichi as well as Urahara might know their way around at least to a certain extent in like the world of all. So like it's going to like entering into like the world of all like and being trapped there for the first time like basically regardless of how strong it's going through would be like still they would be getting into serious trouble without like Yoruichi and Urahara they have to like help them. So like this would be one thing that Yoruichi will be well and fully aware of. So like definitely I'm going to bring that last touch of a lie from Urahara and going to bring Yoruichi taking the decision to like end to consciously taking the decision to like enter into like the world of follows and help each one grow out to basically eventually integrate Ace and then get back the whole team. And with that decision, I'm preferring like Yoruichi only agreeing to like even though I'm preferring Yoruichi to be extremely kind of initially probably kind of acting indifferent towards like Urahara with like the realization that Urahara and his best friend had also tricked Yoruichi as well. And also bring that Yoruichi eventually after like Urahara would be confessing everything Yoruichi is feeling this is like exactly what Yoruichi should be. Yoruichi has no other option but to like to exactly take the decision to like head up to like the world of all of the head figure and the world. So like I'm considering Yoruichi consciously taking the decision to like head off to like the world of all of along with like Urahara. Like the scenario that I'm considering and at that point I'm considering Yoruichi totally like definitely still having that absolute bond of friendship towards like Soipon that I'm considering Yoruichi totally telling Soipon to like totally return back to like the South Friday because the path forward is like extremely dangerous could be along the line. Your she would be like totally telling Soipon, but like I'm totally preferring Soipon totally being adamant that basically she too wants to like help, and that's exactly why Soipon wants to like help Yoroti out. Would be along the line Soipon would be telling Yoroti out of that absolute bond of friendship that would be lying within Soipon even to the present day, especially when I was able to. So like especially because of situation, like the scenario that I was bringing, like it wouldn't just be like Urahara as well as Yoruichi alone that would be entering into like the world of horror at that point. But like I'm considering Soipon as well entering along with them into like the world of horror. It's like the scenario that I'm considering, and I'm considering eventually as like to go and like eventually for like Yoruichi without much great delay, Yoruichi as well as Urahara like meeting up with like Ichigo and Ko once they would be getting trapped in like the world of horror. It's also like the scenario that I'm considering. But like I'm considering eventually as like they would like from that point on would be collectively making their journey to like eventually try to find the case and like I'm considering and I'm considering Urahara probably still maybe keeping that a secret from Ichigo and through, and Urahara even telling Yoruichi to like keep that a secret from Ichigo and through, because like if Ichigo and Pro finds out that like about like Yoruichi tracking Ichigo and Pro this entire time, like the Ichigo and Pro there would be that absolute fight and quarrel between them, and that would be wasting a lot of precious time. Would be along the line, delivering Yoruichi might convince. Urahara might convince Yoruichi definitely also like an eventual scenario that I was so like when Urahara keeping silent for like the time being, which I'm delivering eventually like even Urahara won't be able to like keep the secret from his went through eventually, and I'm delivering like the truth spilling out eventually at some point. Or like Yoruichi confessing it to like it went through at some point, is definitely my considering myself. And like a quarrel like fight even happening maybe midway within like the world of follows is definitely my vulnerability. Until that point, I was preparing Urahara according to his plan would be like totally tricking Ichigo through and telling Ichigo through that like we will find a way out of like the world of follows and precisely would be like wrongly directing Ichigo through. So that would be what Urahara most likely would be doing at that point to like perfectly directly to so that like if you go and through to like eventually running into precisely case and it's definitely my personal immersion. But like I'm just bringing it to through finding out about it and basically even though a quarrel will be happening eventually I'm just trying the quarrel to end with like it's going to finally deciding to like feeling as if there's no other option and finally deciding to like fight off against Ace and get it's like the eventual scenario that I was delivering. So like at that point, I was delivering eventually through that journey in like the world of horror, as they would be like trying to find peace and like basically trying to get into air towards air. And I'm considering eventually towards the end of maybe probably towards like the end of that journey, I'm considering definitely soy phone should definitely die. It's like the scenario that I was like after like soy phone would be entering with Yoruichi and Urahara into like the world of horror. And the difference soy phone won't be making it out alive from like the world of horror. It's like the scenario that I'm different. So like at some point I'm different. Possibly maybe soy phone sacrificing her life to basically save Yoruichi, and that way like soy phone being captured by a holo and basically maybe taking the life of by a horror. It's definitely my personal dream. Maybe Soycon even turning into a horror. And that way, like taking Soycon's like basically that Soycon's like exceptional powers like being absorbed by that horror, and basically that horror being like an even more powerful horror. But like at that point, like the seniority would be like extremely enraged with like her losing her best friend like Soycon. And that was the maybe at that point, like Yoruichi getting some sort of like a major power upgrade, and Yoruichi single-handedly basically taking it down and defeating and taking the life of that. So like an eventual scenario. That I'm personally remembering and my legendary impression. So like the legendary impression right now as for like the mysterious woman that basically Yoruichi as well as that Soyfon had seen in that whole creation like Madame to bring maybe she might be either like another mortal created especially by Urahara. About to bring like that woman would be like a mortal that's even way more stronger than like Nova, Lirin, or like Carlo, definitely going to way more tricky and way more stronger than like the other three mortals that created by Urahara. Maybe with like the precise intent, with like that mortal maybe precisely created with like the precise intent to like precisely Yoriti, precisely because like Urahara might have only felt that since like Yoriti has like a lot more, way more experience when compared to like if you went through. Uh, Precisely because of that, like tricking Yoruichi and basically like you know tricking Yoruichi and getting tricking Yoruichi into like getting trapped into like the world of Call of Duty like an even more difficult task when you compare to like tricking this world to getting them trapped into like the world of Call of Duty. Definitely I would like so maybe like maybe like Urahara might have created this like six human this home about the pretending to be like another mortal but like even more stronger and trickier than the other three mortals and Urahara might have really created her precisely to like target Yoruichi and to trick Yoruichi to like get Yoruichi trapped into like the world power. Definitely my second family. It's like only one possibility that end of the ring. The possibility that end of the ring is maybe this woman might actually be Urahara in a shapeshifter form. It's like the other possibility that end of the ring. So like maybe like Urahara might have had this power which like Urahara might have never revealed to like Yoruichi. So like maybe like Urahara might have figured out some sort of like the way or like a skill or like Urahara might have always had to like unique skill where like Urahara which Urahara might have never revealed to not even just like that sort of geology that basically Urahara might have like the unique power to like not only shape shift and transform and take new form but like other different Urahara might also have like the power to like basically to basically like disguise his like actual spiritual energy into like make turning it into like the spiritual into faking it like spiritual energy into like making it seem as if like into turning it into like the spiritual energy of like a monster or like of some other being instantly my with so, like maybe like Urahara might have taken like that way taken like the perfect disguise and might have taken the task upon himself to like precisely be the person to that in order for him to be able to like trick precisely his best friend Yoruichi into like getting Yoruichi to get trapped into like the world of Pokemon. I know it's like going forward. It's definitely maybe like this is like the other possibility that I'm able to like as for like that mysterious one actually possibility like Urahara in disguise, not only in like the form but also in like disguise when it comes to like split the shot but it's like the other possibility that I'm able to like I'm not able to so definitely my second question right now as for like the future attack is like investigation precisely being straight away being complete precisely at the moment Yoruichi had basically like assigned so to like send like the video data of like that certain serious woman they saw in that a railway area that Campbell different precisely because of like that through that data through the processing of that data like Pikitake might have alone like only instantly figured out that basically that that it's like actually Urahara, that like mysterious woman is actually Urahara in disguise. It's the feeling I don't remember. Like maybe Pitake is like so extremely brilliant that if Pitake through processing of that like Pitake alone might have been able to like figure that out. It's definitely that mysterious woman is actually Urahara. And hence like the connection of like Urahara, that basically Urahara is behind like all these games being played out in front of like it went through. Urahara being precisely being behind all these three mysterious people, like basically monsters like coming up to and through and all that. Like basically it's that all that like I'm remembering right now. Like okay, I might have instantly been able to like realize after like alone being able might have been able to like instantly realize after processing of like that second data connecting to that mysterious woman is definitely my consideration. Maybe due to like that mysterious woman being like Urahara in disguise is definitely my consideration. So my consideration is that like might be precisely up gaining that knowledge and realization that instantly like Ukitake gave the order to like simply open up like the border or like the passageways leading to like the whole society, and straight away he knew saying that like the investigations complete. Him being able to like interpret the fact that like Itadaki was like straight away able to like complete like the investigation like the moment he processed that second data involving that mysterious woman in like the railway area, like this is precisely because of like Itadaki straight away being able to like realize that basically it's actually Urahara is definitely my personal intention. So like I'm considering right now with like Ukitake even asking like Hitsuga for help. Like I'm considering specifically for like Ukitake along with like and with like Ukitake even given the order to like open up like the passages, like I'm considering like the precise intent of Ukitake. I'm considering what Ukitake would be planning and like the help Ukitake would want from Hitsuga would be for Ukitake and Hitsuga to travel into like the world of like the human to protest for Ukitake and Hitsugaya to really confront that Urahara. It's definitely my personal dimension. That would be what like Ukitake might be planning. It's definitely my personal dimension. And I'm considering that will exactly happen. And I'm considering like at that point, even at that point, Yoruichi would be still present in like the world of like the human. Definitely my personal dimension. So like I'm considering the next time like the mysterious woman will be showing up at that point, I'm considering like uh, uh, it wouldn't just be like Yoruichi alone, like definitely Ukitake as well as like Hitsuga as well, maybe along with like Yoruichi. And at that point, I was separately like Kitake falling like that mysterious woman out. That actually like basically, I know you are Urahara. Like it's along the line that I was literally referring. So like at that point, like Urahara totally coming out from the like disguise, like taking off of that disguise and basically Yoruichi getting that absolute shock. Yoruichi as well as Hitsuga getting that absolute shock at that point is like the scenario that I was referring. And I was wondering at that point would be most likely when like your Urahara would be making his like entire confession of like why he was like tricking Tsugu and through and playing all these games and all that and about the Asian and the whole weekend. Then having to getting them it being like an absolute necessary for them to like get back the whole issue as soon as possible. Because like not much great time is left before like Asian will be bring the power of the Tokyo or that like I'm just bring Urahara revealing it to like Ukitake. And I'm considering at that point for definitely for like Ukitake as well as Kitsuge as well being like probably shocked. It's also like the scenario that I'm referring to. That's because of like Gendrusai even basically revealing to having revealed to all of them that they have like a certain extent of time before like Aizen would be even able to like open the whole view, which might have been like an absolute lie, which like I'm still thinking to myself in the impression that like Mayuri, since like Mayuri might have been like the first person that might have done all the follow experiments for like Aizen back when like Aizen was in like society. About the bring Mayuri would be secretly only connected to and allied with like uh, allied with like Asian. So like supposedly according to like Asian's like strategy and plan to trick like the entire civil society, like Asian might have even before leaving, like Asian might have even way before that self might have assigned Mayuri with like this task to like precisely eventually once I would be like getting my hands on like the whole goods. I will be heading off to like the world of all. So like Asian might have only told Mayuri that you need to like the entire civil society that like they have a lot of time until like Ethan would be able to like process like the power of the whole view so that like that way Ethan would be able to touch then that the whole society and Ethan would be able to like buy enough time to be able to like process like the power of like, the whole view. It's definitely my personal limit. So like it won't be like a lot of time that left for like Ethan to be able to like process like the whole view. It's definitely my personal limit. So so since like Hitsugaya as well as like Ukitake might have been this entire time believing this lie that like Mayuri might have said and trick Genrusa and Genrusa having like declared that like revealed that as like the absolute truth without realizing that like not much time was left. Like basically that way like including Genrusa like the entire Indian society and including Kitsuga as well as like Hikitake might have been tricked into thinking that they have a lot of time left. So but like for instance like Urahara is like the creator of like the whole view. Urahara basically making that revealing that absolute truth that like they have only very little time left. So like at that point, I was disrupting Ukitake as well as like Hisuga totally coming to the decision to basically go along with like Yoruichi and Urahara into like the world of horror to like totally give all that assistance and help so that like they could like prevent like the destruction of like the social rate and like the human world through Aizen. It's definitely has to perfectly stop Aizen before Aizen gets his chance to like really what is the power of like the Holy to really not to ensure that I'm delivering Ukitake as well as like Hitsuga as well going along with like Yoruichi as well as like Urahara into like the world of Boros and initially meeting up with like it was like the eventual scenario that I'm understanding. And then also certainly my personal impression right now is that like through their whole journey into like the and so as well would be along the steps. It's like also my personal remix. So like I'm considering through their journey in like within like the world of Boros to like stop hate and I'm considering definitely right now I'm considering two people to like be able to like make it out back to like the human world or like to like the society from the world of all of them. Considering like for the whole adventure in like the world of all like two people that would be definitely I'm considering to die would be precisely Solpon as well as to get as well. I'm considering to not survive the world of horror. So it's definitely my personal limit. And I'm considering both of their that's possibly being through in a manner of like sacrifice, like them at certain point, like them both like Solpon as well as like uh, Ukitake totally sacrificing their life so that like Ichigo and Yorugi and Urahara and like their entire team could like totally move forward and stop Ace. That's definitely my personal impression. So like in such a manner, I'm also preferring like both Ukitake as well as like Soipon who's literally dying within like the world of all of It's like the typical scenarios that I would be delivering and my personal impression. It's definitely not very interesting right now. So for like right now in like the fight between like Ichigo versus like Karuno who has taken like the form of shape form of Ichigo like basically right now with like Ichigo pulling out some sort of like an intense like light beam kind of like uh kind of like an attack Ichigo pulling out such an attack out of his sword and that instantly talking both precisely Karuno as well as like Nova and so this might have to do with like my personal impression that like this alternate dimensional space might have in which like it went through right now fighting against like Learn to like Karudo and Nova. Like I'm remembering this place might have been specifically created by and crafted by Urahara in such a manner that basically to ensure that these more souls get like the extreme upper hand against like it went through. And also like this alternate dimension like place might have also have like such an effect on might have been created in such a manner to have for to have like place to have like such an negative effect towards like soldiering. So that basically I'm wondering like Ichigo and like Renji like basically they would be actually not be able to like fight with their current full strength at all in like the alternate dimension like place like that would be the effect in this like alternate dimension will be having on both like Lyran's team as well as Ichigo's team like simultaneously like with like Lyran's team's like power being able to like be increased through this like alternate effects of links to alternate dimensional placing but like simultaneously Ichigo and both like because they are so it was like their powers being greatly reduced due to like the effect of like this alternate dimensional place. That would be how Urahara might have even created this place. It's definitely my personal impression. And also like Urahara might have revealed about this precisely even beforehand to like his like um three modes or minions. It's definitely my personal impression. So my personal impression is that like this would be like the precise reason for like if you go on pulling out that like light beam kind of like attack like basically at that point that attack would be shocking both Nova as well as Karuto might be precisely because of this reason because like they would be like well and fully aware of that basically if you wondering they are fighting in this like precise location that's like an extreme disadvantage while they them both like Karuto and Nova fighting at such extreme advantage against like unfair advantage against like Ichigo. And yet for Ichigo, the fact that Ichigo that precisely like beam kind of attack that Ichigo pulled out of the sword might still have been like even with that extreme unfair disadvantage, like the fact that it was also able to like pull out such an attack, and that attack and those suffering might have been like strong enough to actually take Karudo and Noba's life. Is definitely my personal impression. This might be the precise reason for like Nova even leaving his like temporarily even leaving his fight against the Renji to like solely to like officially save Karudo. Definitely my personal impression. Precisely because like had Nova then pulled out his like attack redirection power like Ambassador is like Nova, and which Ambassador would be also like a power that Nova would be only be able to like use in this like alternate dimension place created by Urahara from that alone. It's definitely my personal impression. So had Nova not used that power against like it was that light being kind of intense attack, like considering Saruda might have actually died by the extreme intensity. So like basically Karudo and Nova might have probably got a shock from that attack of Ichigo, like seeing Ichigo even surpassing all unfavorable odds. It's definitely my personal opinion. This would be one major factor in like Urahara have most likely having such great high expectations of Ichigo. It's definitely my personal opinion. Even though like Urahara might be currently well fully aware as to like the extreme gap in like strength and skills between like Ichigo and Aizen. Even while Aizen haven't even with like an Aizen that haven't possessed like currently possessed like the power, so you still like the current Aizen would be like a whole lot extremely superiorly stronger than like the current bank Ichigo at even Ichigo's like bank as point. It's definitely my personal I yet like even with that huge gap in strength, like the types of reason for like the things that Urahara would be having like a lot of hope in like Ichigo being literally being like the first person that and the only person that would be able to like bring down Aizen would be like I'm considering that hope might definitely strongly exist within Urahara and it will be precisely because of this like skill or talent of like Ichigo, where like Ichigo often like surpasses all odds that would be extremely against Ichigo. It would be having that knack or that skill to like surpass all that odds that would be against Ichigo and pull through. So certainly my opinion. This would be one thing in which like Urahara would be totally betting on. That would be eventually come. It's that basically Ichigo would be eventually pulling through in that Urahara desire to like basically bring down season and basically get back the whole league. You would definitely remember the reaction. So like definitely my reaction right now with like the reveal that like for this like game given to like Ichigo and Pro were all like what are training given to like Ichigo and Pro and this thing. Definitely this will be all be like Urahara precisely preparing Ichigo and Pro to basically face like the world of Hollow. This definitely might have been precisely Urahara precisely preparing Ichigo and Pro for like the world of Hollows to deal with like the world of Hollows once it will be entering into like the world of Hollows. It's definitely my very ambition. So like I'm considering right now that precisely Urahara might be absolutely confident that like if he straight away even tells Ichigo and Pro to like basically head off to like the world of Hollows and get back the whole issue and that it's like absolutely necessary because like they are short on time. Like getting back the whole defeating Aizen and getting back the whole issue is absolutely necessary to save both not only the sword society but also to like save the human world as well. Like considering like Urahara might have been who's in that time Urahara might have been absolutely confident that if like Urahara had even revealed this to Ichigo and Pro straight away, like Ichigo and Pro won't be like objecting at all and will be only agreeing to like help Urahara out. It's definitely my personal impression is that like this would be one thing that Urahara might have been like absolutely confident about this entire time. Is definitely my personal impression right now. So like I'm considering like hence like the whole suspense and tracking of Ichigo and Pro was being especially intended solely for like that absolute train for Ichigo and Pro. So definitely my personal impression. So like I'm considering right so that being revealed right now, I'm considering right now. The fact that Ichigo wasn't able to like use his like blanket powers in this precise like alternate dimension like place like I'm remembering it will be precisely like this alternate dimension place might have been like a place precisely crafted by Urahara out of like his experience going into like the world of Hollows in like the past. Like Urahara might have definitely gone into and experienced like the world of Hollows in like the past. And so he might have precisely created this like alternate dimensional plane in such a manner that it would like precisely have the very same effect as like the world of Hollows. Like all the all the elements and everything like basically the effects like the world of Hollow entering into like the world of Hollow have on like the powers of like a soul reaper that like precisely or Harameta particularly replicated that to its like exact manner into like those subtypes alternate dimensions. Definitely my personal level. So like here in this like alternate dimension place, like I'm preparing to be precisely resembling like the uh, uh, resembling how like basically fighting in this alternate dimension place would be exactly resembling how exactly fighting in like the actual world of Horus would be like this definitely my personal level. So like with like Ichigo it's being extremely hard for Ichigo to even bring out of like bank powers in this like alternate dimension place like I'm preparing that will be precisely the very the same situation for Ichigo to bring out his like back account even in like the world of Polos as well. Definitely by observation. Especially due to like the world of Polos like being like of like a different configuration than like the Soul Society is definitely a different reality. Or like the human world that basically Ichigo would totally need like a lot more of like an extreme training before Ichigo will be able to like easily pull out his like a bank account as he does in like the South Society or like the human world, like for Ichigo to like be able to like pull out his bank account with like such is in like the world of Follows, like really need to go would be actually requiring a lot of extreme training, even more training on top of like the current game training of definitely my personal. So like I'm going to bring the current game training that Urahara gives to like Ichigo and crew, like basically would be like only just like the starters like kind of thing. And definitely my personal training. The main course or like the actual training would be only just ahead right now to actually get and prepare each one crew to be ready to like face like the world of war. It's definitely my personal favorite. So like I'm preparing right now for Hara to reveal all this about Asian and everything right now to like it was like why Hara trick each one crew with these games all of like the training and everything like so to prepare each one crew to like the enter into like the world models and all that. And I'm preparing each one crew totally agree and okay with like Urahara desire to like get back to the hobby and everything and Israel was totally straight away willing to help. And so like also my consideration is that like right now I'm bring Urahara to like give the actual proper training to like Ichigo, the main training to like Ichigo as well as Hime, Ishida as well as Renji. In the script that alternate dimension place definitely going to serve. And then the definitely something like Urahara would be like well and fully aware by now as for like Ishida having lost reflective power. So like I'm considering to do protected through Urahara's main training that Urahara will be right now giving like it's going through that I'm considering like Ishida would be getting back to like 20 like the scenario that I'm considering. So like I'm about to bring still need to I'm about to bring for it to be kind of like unlike totally contrary to like the last time like Urahara as well as like Yoruichi had given their training to like Ichigo and prove where like they might have given us just everything into that training. I'm considering right now as for like with them currently realizing would be like right now realizing the truth about like what lies up ahead and that they need to get back the whole issue to like save both the human as well as like the also the human world as well as it's also ready. But yet like I'm considering since like the current situation is not like someone as like a precious or like as a close friend to is going through as like Rukia being abducted since like the situation isn't like I'm also in that situation might have been way more of like it might have felt like a way more of like an extreme situation for it went through that like back then training and giving it their everything into like training into the training for it went through might have been a whole lot easier for them back then. But right now I'm also trying for them to like even though like that cost is basically uh, the cost of not properly training and getting properly strong would be like the destruction of like the entire of the human world and like so it is still able to bring like for Ichigo and Kuro to like not especially for Ichigo to like not feel that absolute desperation and to basically get stronger. In like the current main training that Urahara right now I'm considering would be give Ichigo and Kuro. So like I'm also bring still like Urahara still being able to like foresee even that and I'm also bring Urahara totally giving such a specific kind of training. Might have Urahara might have only switched up to like training in such a manner that basically if you go and just like for instance, if you go and Chad and or him and all of them would be like forced to like give it their absolute everything into their training. It's like the scenario that I'm going to bring. And Urahara once again that we are being that absolute master, like absolute extreme of like a teacher in such a manner. Is definitely in my personal and correction like that way, like Urahara, especially knowing like all the weakness of like Ichigo and his friends, and precisely knowing how to totally use those weakness against Ichigo and throw to precisely that way force them to like force them to like basically give them no other option but to like give it their absolute everything into their training that their main training that Urahara will be right now without much delay will be giving them. It's definitely my secondary ambition. So like my secondary ambition right now as for like that mysterious woman that Yoruichi and Soifron had seen in that railway area, like I'm considering regardless if whether that woman was like actually Urahara in disguise or like regardless of like that woman. And I'm right now getting more towards the possibility that maybe that woman might have actually been not of Hara in disguise, but like it might have been like a fourth mode soul that Urahara might have created, and that mode soul will be like a whole lot tougher than precisely the other three mode souls like Liren, Karudo, and Nova. Compared to them, like this mysterious woman, that fourth mode soul will be like a lot more tougher, and she might have been instantly created by Urahara with like by precisely targeting Yoruichi, by precisely targeting like the training of Yoruichi is definitely my position. So like I'm maybe before like Hitsuga as well as like Sukitake would be able to like make it to like the human world like maybe before that like Yoruichi totally once again finding or like running into that mysterious woman and I'm preparing through a fight between Yoruichi and that mysterious woman who will be like the most role and then delivering Yoruichi as well getting that absolute training stealthily given that absolute training from Urahara through that mysterious woman who did like so it's like also like an eventual possible scenario that I'm put on precisely because like Urahara might also be maybe aware or might have like a feeling that basically even though Yoruichi is like extremely strong like Yoruichi as well would be having to like sharpen her skills as well. It's like if it's going through needs a chance at basically at like fighting and bringing down like Ethan and his army in like the world of follows like even Yoruichi as well would need a lot of training. Would be maybe along the lines not just Yoruichi but like Urahara as well would be like planning on training as well himself as well. And basically everyone that so that like without anyone being left out, like each and every single one of them would have to like sharpen their skills and powers to like the maximum they would be able to at that present at the present time period for them to even possibly stand a chance at bringing down Asian and his like army and be able to like get back to the holy would be one thing that Urahara would be genuinely believing and with that intent would be like the precise reason for like Urahara also trekking your EP as well. So that mysterious woman is definitely also my present president right now. So like definitely also present president right now. So that is since right now totally fully revealed that basically what Yoruichi and Toyson are like investigating. Basically have nothing to do with like Urahara or with plans like I'm just right now my particular impression that like just phenomenon that's like happening in like the human world is like totally origins so are investigating and so different might be and especially connecting it to this like basically how the origins so had seen this like mysterious woman uh woman and also different like that mysterious woman might have actually not at all been a monster but like that mysterious woman might have actually been like a horror that could like totally shape into making itself like disguised as like a human. It's definitely my book premise. So like I'm remembering like the phenomenon that's like going around right now in like the human world would be most likely horror appearing into like the human world while being disguised and disguised as human. It's definitely my book premise. That way like an infiltration of like a great number of horror into like the human world might have suddenly start happening. It's definitely my custom theory and version. This might be like the phenomenon that like anxiety might be right now investigating. This definitely my custom remedy. That's like how exactly that was like possible. It's definitely my custom remedy. Especially because like I'm considering even though hollows are like extremely uh, dangerous and all that, like but still like even among hollows, like there might be certain level of teamwork and coordination, especially in the world of hollows and those things in like a certain area in like the world of hollows. Like I'm considering the world of hollows would be extremely huge. That basically there will be a whole lot of like different huge rate. So like where season would be currently in would be on like a different rate in like the world of hollows and compared to like the rate from which like currently like the whole of that and the different would be like infiltrating into like the world of like the living while skies plus humans will be happening to certainly those kind of photos will be different from a totally different rate certainly and also one of different this phenomenon that's happening right now would definitely most likely have like a connection might be having like a connection to that whole one incident from like the recent past where like a bunch of humanoid follows in like the in what appeared as like the world of follows were interacting with each other and they were having like a meeting to simply remember the emergence. So that incident that is like shown in like the distant past and also bring might be like might have that meeting might have resulted in like the current phenomenon of like the incident that's like happening in like the human world that respectively Yoruichi and Soipon are investigating right now. It's definitely my personal remembrance. So like uh, it might be through that meeting that like Ambassador then might have eventually decided to like teach like a bunch of like the tier followers. Like there will be a great number of followers in that country. So like they might have figured out like the strategy to like teach like and Ambassador so besides a few humanoid figures in like what appeared to be like the world of followers might be like the first few among like the whole of mice that might have mastered like the art of being able to like shape and take human form. It's definitely my personal ambition. So they might have planned on like teaching like the remaining bunch of great number of follows as well this like skill shape shifting skill to be able to like transform into like taking human form. It's definitely my personal ambition. And especially because like those follows might have realized that they really should like each and every single one of like the roles usually like when they show to like the human world they are in their hollow form and instantly like identified by the soul reapers and instantly being targeted by the soul reapers. So like especially to like to basically create that absolute stealth and that way to create that absolute advantage. Even when it comes to like the stealing of like the souls and basically taking the life of like spirits and all that, like basically even when it comes to that, basically when horrors even appear in like their horror forms, like basically that would cause like the spirits to like try to get away and that way then be possibly maybe even being like by enough time for like a soul reaper to like come to the rescue and all that. So like I'm wondering the like the word of follows like bring a lot of follows who might have the very few follows that might have initially mastered the art of like being able to shape shift into like taking the disguise and form of like a human and they might have planned out and with their strategy to like teach that shape shifting power and skills to like a lot of like the remaining hollows and that might be like what happening like by now, like that whole teaching might be like almost over. So like with that, like I'm going to print a great number of followers might be right now infiltrating and entering into like the human world. Totally unlike how followers were entering into like the human world before. But like right now, all these followers might be like infiltrating and entering into like the human world while precisely shape shifted into like taking human forms. It's definitely my good follows in like human forms would be like infiltrating by the day more and more into like the human world and basically causing like and so that way with followers gaining access to that absolute and extreme stealth like followers might be right now doing a lot more damage and and might be taking way more life than before right now is definitely my personal impression like so this might be like the phenomenon that like Yoruichi and Pro might be investigating right now. It's definitely my personal impression. So my personal impression that maybe like not all photos would be able to like would be able to like achieve the skill of like shape shifting into like a human. It's definitely my also my personal impression. Maybe like it will be only like the selected few photos that will be like naturally having like a lot more superior strength and will be like a lot more skillful and like would be like only once among like the great number of followers that would be able to transform in and be able to like gain like the ability and learn the skills of like shape shifting is definitely one person the so like I was pretty still like they would be greater number solely due to like the overall number of followers being so in the huge certainly not so like I'm like these precise exact followers that might have gained like the ability of shape shifting and transforming into human form like those followers would be like not only a lot more extremely superiorly stronger than like the average followers but like I'm wondering they will be also a lot more uh, a lot more cunning and dangerous as well. It's definitely my personal reaction. So Michael theory embraces as for like the eventual scenario that I'm representing is definitely and my personal theory embraces as for like it being precisely your age that like totally leading like the whole investigation behind these like solos like I'm wondering it only has to do with like your age as well being a shapeshifter and can shapeshift into the cat and everything like basically maybe that might have a major role to do with like Yoruichi being precisely Yoruichi being like the first person that's leading the investigation to this like shape technology. This definitely my personal impression. So my personal impression is like the mental scenarios definitely that I'm referring is for like Hikitake as well as Hikigaya to like without much delay with like the investigation being over. for like Ukitake and Pasupara. Ukitake might have only figured out that basically like actually follows might up slowly learning like the technique of shape shifting, and basically that might be how like basically follows like that might be like how like Okitake might have closed when closed off like the investigation that basically follows might be like a lot of followers are basically right now gaining like the power of shape shifting, and that will be like the precise reason for like humans that are follows basically all of a sudden like basically all of that looks like humans like basically showing up a lot in like the human world. This would be like the phenomenon that's now happening. So basically my considering so like I'm considering right now without much delay like I'm considering like Ikitake asking like Itsugaya for help, like I'm considering Ikitake and Itsugaya showing up to like the world of living, and I'm considering but it's even through the like only training in that whole alternate dimension like place like I'm considering Ukitake as well as like Itsugaya showing up and meeting up with like Yoruichi and so on. Like the scenario that I'm considering, and I'm considering them collectively like maybe like discussing about like these like shape shifting all of when I'm considering like that precise mysterious woman and considering it for once again have to like show up for like Yoruichi and all of them to be able to like sense once again that and I'm considering the maybe like even sensing would be like different for like all of that can shape shift into like human form, like even like their energies as well would be like different to like the usual photos, especially when considering this. Like I'm considering like while Yoruichi and Kitake and Suga would be all discussing about this, like I'm considering like them sensing to the precise presence of like this precise exact shape shifting hollow from a distance, and I'm considering them all collectively deciding to like check it out, and at that point I'm considering it being this precise exact woman is definitely all by herself. It's definitely my personal impression. So like I'm considering then I'm considering like Suga and all of them like most likely telling them to, that basically they should not try to like take it like, but like they should try to like basically or like sponsor it, but instead like they should try to like capture it. Like that would be like I'm considering at that point the order that Kitake would be giving to like Yoruichi and all of them, and I'm considering them teaming up and trying to like, capture that follow. But like I'm considering is that process, like I'm considering that follow should be so extremely cunning and strong that I'm considering uh, that says follow basically abducting Yoruichi is definitely the scenario that I'm considering. Either Yoruichi and Soipon or like I'm referring that woman, that mysterious woman, like totally abducting Yoruichi and leaving through the actual gate of follow, like the scenario that I'm looking at and my personal impression. And my personal impression is for like at that point for like for Hisuga and like Utanake being like totally and absolutely shocked that I'm bringing them totally phoning Urahara at that point. And at that point, like it's going through like putting in all that effort and training extra hard to like basically sharpen up their skill, and like at that point, like the only thing in like Ichigo and Crow's minds would be to like basically head to and or Hara's mind would be to like basically train Ichigo and Crow up and get that strong enough and basically for them to all collectively head off to like the world of Polos and chop Ace and bring back the Hogi. That would be like the only thing in like Urahara and all of their minds. But like I was referring, that would be when the twist happens with like all of them and like Urahara getting the phone call from like Uchitake, where like Uchitake will be revealing to like um Urahara about like this like mysterious hollow like picture into like a woman and basically like abducting Yoruki and like leading through like the actual gates of hollows. Like basically I'm wondering at that point through that Urahara through that on hearing that news would be totally extremely shocked and would be genuinely extremely worried for like the well-being of his like best friend Yoruki is definitely my first impression that like at that point I was wondering like Urahara totally like deciding to like increase like the difficulty of like the training Urahara would be giving to like Ichigo and Pro at that point, and like Urahara also making the reveal to like Ichigo and Pro that basically we are going to take since like I'm considering Urahara at that point then feeling a lot more confident as well, thinking that basically since like Urahara has like more than a year for like by the time like Aizen would be even able to like offer like the actual true power of like the Hogi. So like I'm also praying for Hara only telling it to bro that basically we need to take a detour before Jason, and that will be to like basically head to that precise word of follow to that precise story in like the word of follows where like I'm also praying for Hara might have definitely because like Hara having like might have totally have gone through like the world of horror like and traveled in like the world of horror like but like definitely considering Urahara might have a feeling as to like where exactly like Yoruichi might have been affected by the first like shifting horror. So like I'm considering that would be a totally different surface from where like Asian would be like most likely present. It's definitely my consideration. So like Urahara telling to children who that about like the detour and everything like Urahara like increasing like the extremely Urahara who would be like at that point extremely worried for like Yoruichi's well-being like Urahara only retiring to like save Yoruichi and first and basically was like if you want to head off to like the Fraser River, Yoruichi has been affected and save Yoruichi first and then along get Yoruichi along with like Ichigo go like all of them to like then from there to, for all of them to collectively head off to Aizen and fight Aizen. Would be like along the lines for how would be planning with the family. So like I'm just putting at that point like at least so like Urahara will be feeling that uh, Urahara will be sort of feeling or confident that like that will be totally possible and still they would, even after like getting Yoruichi back like basically saving Yoruichi they would have like more than enough time to like basically stop Aizen before like Aizen was like the power of the whole. So it's only due to like Urahara probably thinking that like it would take more than 1 year for like um Aizen to be able to like possess the power of the whole. But like I'm considering definitely something to go wrong and I'm considering two positives on top of like if you go and prove like Urahara totally things not going as expected and like it's going through like basically losing way more time than expected out of like it's going to and Urahara to for them to eventually be able to like save you already. On top of that, like I'm considering Ethan like figuring out some sort of like a loophole or a strategy to like for Ethan to be able to like possess like the power of like the home to even faster than more than earlier. It's definitely my personal impression. So like these two happen things like happening simultaneously like the scenario that I'm considering and that way I'm considering by the time Ichigo and Kuro would be like finally saving Yoruichi and would be finally making their way towards like Ethan and they would be making their way towards like by the time they would be making their way towards like Ethan and considering for almost 1 year would be like passing like it would be almost like 1 year and at that point I'm considering Urahara still being confident thinking that like Ethan still wouldn't have it for like the power of the whole but like I'm considering like the scenario to be like by the time she go and through along with like Urahara will finally making it towards like Ethan at that point I'm considering what they would be certainly witnessing would be like Asian like right then itself like processing like the power like that it would be considering Asian turning it out into like a grand ceremony in like the world of horror where like Asian like the procession of like the whole shoot by Asian turning it out into such a ceremony like thing and celebration like thing and I'm considering really by the time like Urahara and Ichigo and all of them would be able to like make it towards like Asian like I'm considering them being like just a bit late and with like reason precisely possessing like the power of which you just by the time like Urahara and Ichigo and all of them would be making it there like the scenario that I'm considering. And I'm considering maybe like by the time Ichigo and Urahara and all of them would be making it there, like they would be maybe making it during that precise ceremony or like celebration of like Asian and I'm considering like Shuenro doing their absolute best to like stop Asian from right before like Asian could possess the power of the Rovigio, but like I'm considering still like Shuenro being stopped by like great army of like Asian. And like I'm considering like while during that whole fight, like I'm considering like Urahara and Ichigo and all of them closely witnessing like Ace actually possessing like the power of like the Holy Gear. And Ace gaining that all that superior exceptional strength. Like the scenario that I'm considering. And then I'm considering like them Urahara and Ichigo and all of them having no other choice but to like keep pushing forward. So like retreat won't be an option at that point. With them having gone so deep into like the world of horrors, along the lines like Urahara will be feeling. So like I'm really saying Urahara like putting all of it like faith and hope on like Ichigo being able to like still being able to like overcome the odds and defeat season and so like that way I'm considering like the finally like the positive part of the thing is and versus like it was a fight to happen at that point. It's like the imminent scenario that I'm able to like and my person theory and Raksha. According to my person theory and Raksha, I'm definitely predicting like Yoruichi to like real soon get affected by that possession mysterious woman. Will be like a horror in the sky. So definitely my person theory and like I'm considering like Yoruichi not straight away like usually like the usual horrors they like basically I'm considering it will be like extremely contrary to like that behavior of straight away taking the life of like a soul reaper, which like usually follows through. It would be totally contrary to that the skepticism human follow will be doing, and like you will instead of taking straight away taking your life, she will be abducting your and heading off to like the world of follow. And I was wondering maybe like it might have to do with like that mysterious woman hollow being like extremely stronger and more cunning hollow, like the scenario. Because like also shape-shifting hollows being like a lot more stronger and a lot more cunning and tricky. Certainly, my person mentioned that like maybe that hollow might have only figured that basically abducting Yoruichi might cause like a lot more like since like even abduction of like Yoruichi might be definitely happening uh in like the presence of Ukitake and Hitsugaya and maybe even Soifon like so because of that maybe I'm considering like that hollow abducting Yoruichi might be like that hollow like totally trying to like lure like the other soul people and into like eventually making it into entering into like the world of hollows to like the same Yoruichi. Maybe like I'm remembering like that follow thinking so far ahead that basically it's saying that basically by affecting Yoruichi basically maybe like it would be able to like lure eventually lure in a lot of great number of sword reapers, especially strong sword reapers as like the one that were with Yoruichi at that point like Setake and Suga like a lot of great number of like especially strong sword reapers might integrate into like the world of horrors into their free to precisely save Yoruichi and at that point to like precisely trap them and capture all of them and to take all of their life might be with that such a strategy like Ambassador and a trap like Ambassador possibly for like this that is superior woman that mysterious woman who would be like a whole lot to like especially abduct Yoruichi and leave through like leave quickly through the gates of Hollow to like the scenario that happened and at that point like not even Hitsuga and Ukitake being able to like go after Yoruichi like then seeing in like such a stage through that fight potentially due to like that mysterious woman Hollow being like so exceptionally strong and extremely tricky that like such a situation even happening. It's like the scenario that I was only putting and much into introduction. So like definitely my putting the introduction right now is like your Richie right now making the reveal that like a bounce has appeared. Like I think like bounce would be definitely a different classification of models. Like checking like how it has a brilliant reveal that like there are like bunch of different classifications of models. There are like the usual models and then there are like the Menos Grande. That's like a different classification of models. And also bring down as well will be like another set of classification of models, which would be like the classification of models that would be like a lot more superior than maybe even like the Menos Grande and even though they would be like bound would be smaller in size, like they would be like a lot more stronger and a lot more extremely trickier, and I'm considering them to be uh, them to also possibly be like maybe like not stronger than Linux Grande, but maybe like at least on the same level of strength as that of like a Linux Grande or like near to the level of strength as that of Linux Grande. But like they would be like found would be like those classification of hollows that would be like maybe one among like, the most trickiest among like the hollows definitely my English. So like I'm just trying to bounce as well would be like of like a high position in like the hierarchy of like the even in like the world of hollows that I'm just maybe like fonts might usually never at all appear into like the word of Thanksgiving at all. Definitely my presentation. Maybe that's my presentation. Maybe due to like the high position, like I'm looking in like the word of God of and spring, like might be like the duty of like the user follows to like basically abduct maybe like not all like user follows might even be allowed to like basically take the life of like humans and spirits in like within the world. Like maybe like a lot of them might they might even have quotas that for like the usual hollows to like precisely uh, bring a certain percentage of like the humans and spirits humans and spirits that they would be like targeting to like the precise bound the would be like that classification of hollows at like high position in like the hierarchy in like the world of hollows that would be like that would have never even bothered to like enter into like the world of the living of definitely members of the like it would be always like this usual low ranked hollows like basically always like capturing like a bunch of humans and spirits and uh, bringing them to like the bound for the bounds. It's definitely my personal reimbursement. So that might have been what might have been going on in that time. But like I'm considering now it would be like a total different situation that would be like happening right now with like the bounds themselves like deciding to like show up to like the world of living. So like this might be what like right now happening. Definitely maybe might be what might be happening right now. It's definitely my personal impression. So like that woman, that shape shifting woman might have definitely be a bound like a classification of all of that can shift and like are exceptionally strong and are exceptionally tricky being like collectively being like the section of follows by the name bounce is definitely my personal impression. So like for bounce, for like even bother to like show through like the human world would be like extremely alarming for uh like Yoruichi and everyone in like the maybe for like even like the society might be also like a bit worried about like the situation of like the bounce just showing up in like the human world. Like everyone was like even Ukitake even closing the investigation just now, that will be like only until like the only after like Ukitake learning of like the knowledge that basically it was like a bomb that had basically a perspective and once like Yoroki had sent that video evidence to like that is like Ukitake at that point through seeing the video like Ukitake might have been straight away being able to like identify that mysterious woman as like being a bomb. That's definitely my personal impression of like everyone, even Ukitake might be like only like closing the investigation only temporarily until like the with like the uh, by identifying that mysterious phenomenon as basically the appearance of sound into like the human world alone. Like as for like the special reason and causation and the special reason as for like why sounds are even showing up to like the human world, that would be something like not even Fukitake might be aware of right now and would be totally confused about definitely my person to right now. So like just like Yoruichi basically right now making the reveal about like the bound appearance into like the human world to like Urahara and Ichigo and all of them like I'm also like I'm also like without much great delay I'm also like Urahara giving that absolute training to like Ichigo and Ichigo's friends and everyone and really strengthening them up. And I'm also like definitely using into my revolution that like definitely as well as like Fukitake would be showing up to like the human world without much delay and like would be meeting like Urahara and Yoruichi and Ichigo and Goro once again in like the human world. It's like the scenario that I'm looking and them all collectively taking the decision to like basically send Ichigo and Goro and I'm also them as well most likely going along with legacy Wednesday and them more collectively deciding to like especially head off to like right now that's my personal emotion that like them all collectively deciding to like maybe head off to the country in like the world of follows where like this will be like the country of like the bounce to definitely my personal emotion. That is like around like any ancient scenario that I'm really on with because like in my personal conditions that like the current situation will be most likely with like sounds showing up to like the human world like the lives of humans and spirits in like the human world will be like screams for definitely my personal conditions. So like bounds might be like taking down and bringing down of that bounds would be of like an extremely high priority right now uh like Yoruichi as well as like Ukitake and so definitely and Ukitake is right now that I'm preparing and Urahara as well would be seeing that as like a high priority. It's definitely my personal preference, especially because of like the showing up of sounds like I'm preparing like the whole balance between like the world of like the soul society and like the human world would be like greatly getting unbalanced. So that's because of sounds being like exceptionally skilled that sounds would be able to like to take the life of like a lot of it as well as like humans like to believe definitely members in the emergence that like if such a scenario happens then like the soul reaper showing up to like the human world to like also like spirit and follows into like the soul society that process like wouldn't be able to be performed in like a balance and even like the soul reapers as well showing up to like the human world will be under like the threat of like basically dying by the hand like bound is definitely my opinion. So like basically like a seriously high risk and high positively like the balance between like the human and soul reaper world getting unbalanced and that way like that causing like the one to get destroyed but like the other as well getting destroyed in like the process due to like the unbalanced state is definitely my personal. So this to me that extremely high risk that I'm multiplying possibly like Yoruichi as well as it is like I might be right now seeing through like the appearance of sounds into like the human world. So especially my personal theory and concern. So especially to like ensure this and like I'm multiplying maybe like Kitake and Urahara and Yoruichi also like collectively deciding to like send Ichigo and through after hearing Ichigo and through the training to like just send Ichigo to basically give Ichigo and through the first detour before heading off to Ace and to send them to the terrain like the border follows where like clowns would be so that like it's going through uh, and assigning it's going through to like the takedown and bringing down of all those pounds in like the border follow. Definitely my person payment to take out all the pounds and I'm considering or even telling if you're going through that basically it would be the perfect training for them before them eventually heading off or would be heading off towards Jason. Definitely my consideration. And that too, I'm considering even that only eventually help is even throughout a lot. Definitely my consideration. That eventually it only like through the experience of fighting found like definitely that would eventually only benefiting is when through as eventually they will be setting off to like fight Jason. It's also like an eventual possible scenario and my personal theory and prediction.